And this is part 2 of my interview with Kath Lauderdale, who's standing in the upcoming election for the seat of New Plymouth for the Social Credit Party of New Zealand. And I notice you've got the glasses on now because we're talking policy, and you've revealed off camera you've got a great sense of humour as well. So let's talk about policy. If social credit was successful, would we get the equivalent of what we call a UBI, some income? What would it be, and possibly how would that work?
So one of the most things I'm most passionate about is the equality issues,
yes,
which are UBI, or what we call a guaranteed...
So that's an acronym, I mean,
yes,
for what? What does that stand
Universal Basic Income.
All right. So if social credit was successful each month or each week, how much better off would we all be, or those that supposedly who are adults?
Well, we'd be looking at guaranteed minimum income for everybody. So if you're on a benefit, you wouldn't need to be on a benefit because you would be getting a guaranteed minimum income across the board. Everybody would get that guaranteed income. It would be no strings attached. It would be individualised. So it wouldn't be about what your partner earns. Or
if that happened, in some ways it would remove the stigma and promote more equality, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
That's attempted in some of the Scandinavian countries and so forth, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. Other policies that are unique to social credit that you want to highlight, Kath?
Well, I think one of the primary issues we have now is housing. So we would be going back to the state advances loans, the Reserve Bank funding.
The good old days of the 50s and 60s.
Yes, funding huge housing for people.
See, the counter-argument is interest rates have never been lower. So, go to the private banks. But, of course, you've got to have a job. And if you can't get the deposit,
that's right.
You can't even start, can you?
That's right. So it would almost be a right. Yeah. It would become like they're talking about everywhere. It's a human right to have housing.
And the potential for sort of like rent-to-buy type thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
But if everybody had a right to a state advances loan at a very low interest rate, and then in fact the money they're paying back is going to support our own government.
So as someone who spent so much of your life studying policy and living and breathing this, I can see why for you're excited by social credit.
Yes. I just don't see how we're going to do it any other way.
You saw my interview with your leader, Chris Leach. I said, look, my heart's warming, but you're dreaming. It ain't going to happen. You're dreaming. Do you really, really believe the Reserve Bank can pull it off, and that New Zealanders would trust social credit to implement not the revolution, but an innovative way forward, Kath?
It would have to be across the board. All the parties. We're going to get a portion. Other parties are going to get a portion. But it's done so commonly overseas. There is no longer any ability for any party to say that this is in any way extreme or immoderate policy. It is modern monetary theory policy, and it is very well known and it is very credible. So we just need enough of us in there to go, we can do it. And all of this suffering and all of this division and inequality and this inability to pay for the services we all need is unnecessary.
Because what's happened with COVID-19 and the economic fallout, by default, and we've got no choice, 1.7 million Kiwis have received the wage subsidy, so we've almost been unwitting recipients of universal welfareism.
Yes,
probably myself self-included.
We're all socialists now.
So in some ways, I'm wondering whether to be even more radical and go with social credit with what we've experienced. Is that going to result in more support for social credit, or is that just another hurdle? People say, oh, Labor's been radical enough, we don't want to go all the way with social credit. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think if they understand that this means we don't leave a huge tax debt for our children and grandchildren, that it's sensible, that it's moderate policy, that it is no way extreme, and that it is very fair across the board, I think they'll understand that we're absolutely
right.
Now,
when I interviewed the leader of your party, Chris Leach, she spoke about at least half a dozen economists now that are respected who, I'm not saying they endorse social credit, but they are advocating policies that aren't too dissimilar with social credit in respect to what the Reserve Bank can do.
Can do.
All right.
Modern monetary theory.
Yeah. All right, we better wrap it up. Why vote for Kath Lauderdale and social credit?
We've got all the answers we can work with other parties, and we're very, very motivated with all the crises, the climate crisis.
All right, that's very
COVID.
definitive for social credit. But what about you specifically as the MP for New Plymouth, the candidate?
I think
Why you?
Yeah, I know this area very,
I can't
very
imagine
well.
you saying, I have all the answers, but
No.
why you?
I know this area very well. I know what's needed, and I can do the job.
Wow. Kath, lovely to engage with you. Wishing
Thank
you
you.
and all the aspirants who seek to be in Parliament all the very, very best. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, Bryan.